Hello, everyone. Welcome. I want to welcome our special guest here today, all the way from London, England, Miss Jaswinder. Challi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello there. Hi, Eileen. I'm very well, thank you. And I'm glad to be here with you.
We are so excited to have you on board. Welcome, not only because you're all the way from London, UK, but also that you are now a valuable and bring invaluable experience and knowledge to the table to our ambassador community for survivors against everywhere. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your story and how did you get into this?
Right. Well, oh gosh, you know what? My story is actually a very long one, but there's been episodes of specific, landmarks of real intense events. Okay. So just when something was going to get better, it just got worse. But there's been oppression all the way through. If we look at the word oppression, that has been there like for a very long time, many years. And recently I did a research paper, and that research paper came about as a result of me starting to write my book, the book that I'm writing on oppression. And when I was doing this research, I actually learned so much about my past, my background. What I mean is my ancestral roots, where we come from in India, and that we are a very marginalized community right at the bottom of the hierarchy, extremely oppressed, extremely oppressed. When Martin Luther King went to, I think it was Martin Luther King, yeah, I think it was him, when he went to India. When he saw the people of my community that I come from and the way they were being treated, he said that he suddenly realized in his consciousness that what is happening in America to the Black people is what is happening to the low-cost people in India. And that he said, we are no different. We are these people. We are the Dalits. We are the same people. We are going through the same atrocities. So if you can imagine what the Black people, during the slavery and even after, even today, like not long ago, we had, the whole thing about the shooting. So if you can imagine what atrocities have gone on there, it will give you an idea of what I'm talking about my community, what we had to endure. You weren't allowed to mix with the upper castes. You weren't even allowed to walk on the same paths and pavements. It's only since because there's an equivalent in India of what America had as Martin Luther King. India had an equivalent. His name was Dr. B.R.M. Ambedkar, and he was fighting in the same way for the causes and everything. So I learned all this through this research paper I was doing, because I had to go and research, a lot of information. And it was as a result of me starting to write my book that led me there, because I was brought up in England and a lot of things didn't make sense, why I felt oppression living and growing up in England. And it happened in a different way. But recently, the last kind of 10 years, I have observed the upper caste Asians, they behave towards you very differently when they know your caste. They start treating you very differently. In fact, in America, Silicon Valley, there has been a case, a legal court case about this. So I have been oppressed by culture, by family, by community, by like the more privileged people, no matter what caste they are, but more privileged people, and then horrifically by partners, horrifically. Now, there is this saying that hurt people hurt people. So my parents growing up were very oppressed. They were child laborers because of the poverty. They weren't allowed to go to school. They were living in marginalized, ostracized colonies outside the villages because that's what they had to do in these communities. So they had to go and work from very young for the richer people so that they could have some money. And so they grew up with a lot of oppression. They grew up with a lot of poverty, scarcity. And so when you've been through that yourself, there is, because you see, this is why I later on became a therapist, because I needed to deal with my own stuff. I needed to survive. I needed to deal with all the things that were going on for me, but I wasn't aware of all this other stuff until just recently. So I mean, like, since I found out, I have more empathy for my parents, but before there was just a lot of anger, why they treated me like this, why they did this, why they did that, etc., etc. Because they were married very young, and the whole culture, everybody is the norm, because girls are a liability. And if you're very poor, even today in India, our community, the girls, apparently from our communities, the girls are raped every 8 minutes by the upper castes because they are such a target, so easily, a target. So my parents because they had 4 daughters, they got me married very quickly at 17, and I wanted to study, and I wanted to, because I grew up here, amongst like English friends and my Black Caribbean friends and Italian friends, and we were all like, had dreams and things we wanted to do, but all the Indian girls that were leaving school were having to get married. So my parents said to me, "What's so different about you? All the other girls are not rebelling against their parents, saying no. It's our choice. It's our decision. You have to do as we say." And I could not do anything. I felt helpless, and I just had to get married to somebody I hadn't even seen, I didn't know, and then was treated. I didn't know at the time, but this is another thing I learned much later, as a servitude slave, where you're told what to do. You can't live your life how you want. You're forced into working all the time. You're told you have to do this, you have to do this. And I was micromanaged by my mother-in-law constantly, because she was all the time, she was there, and she just had me on the go from early morning till really late at night. And so I had no life other than this work that I had to do as a servitude slave. So it was very hard, it was very difficult, and it wasn't what I was expecting from life at all. And because I wasn't allowed to speak, I wasn't allowed to say anything, and also my parents had conditioned me, especially my father had drummed into me, like, you are not allowed to come back home in an argument. Like, you're not allowed to argue with your in-laws, because the girls are very conditioned to be serving their in-laws, serving their husband. But because I had actually lost my voice, I couldn't even speak to anybody. I didn't know how to. I was just internalizing everything and suppressing and suppressing and suppressing. And I just then didn't know even, what to say or who to turn to or what. But the pain had to go somewhere. And so the only way I could cope with the pain was to self-harm. So I started to self-harm secretly. And I even attempted suicide once. I took tablets. And even then, they made me feel shamed. They said, you know, you're trying to give us a bad name. You're trying to get us in trouble. Who do you think you are? Really kind of just criticizing me. Didn't get any support or help for me. I was vomiting blood and I was very ill, but I still had to carry on working. Now, I've done a lot of investigating about slavery and how people are treated, you know, like whether it's sex slaves or labor slaves or servitude slaves. One thing they all suffer is that your oppressors, they only see the work they're trying to get out of you. They don't see you. They don't see you as a person. And therefore they don't connect to your feelings, because all they are interested is in the outcome of the labor. That's all they see. And so that's why they had no empathy for me having taken these tablets. They had no empathy for me that I was self-harming. In fact, what they said was, if you want to kill yourself, go to your parents and go and do it there. They said, we welcome you to go and do it at your parents' house, but don't give us a bad name and do it at our house.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I know that you've mentioned about having lost your voice, but today, see where you are. You have not only become the voice for the voicelesses and become, having written the book, which we are proud to have you speaking at the International Conference on Abuse, as well as the International Book Awards in Houston, Texas in October. So I'm so excited to meet you in person. But I just want to applaud you, for all the work that you have been doing, despite all these you have to go through. And I can relate to that, even though we were born in different places and we live in different countries. But after all, I can totally relate about the shame and the honor system. And I have to say that we need more voices like you, and we can only hope that with our work in this conference that we can unite the people. Because like you mentioned, there's I'm sorry, I don't remember the doctor in India.
Dr. Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar.
And Martin Luther King, even though they're in different parts of the world, even though they are probably even different period of time, and in terms of time is concerned, they are all happening everywhere, and anyone can be a victim. And you talked about, the sex trafficking, the labor trafficking, which are the common things and common trafficking that people commonly refer to, especially in America. But you also mentioned, and you've educated me that, in England, that forced marriage is also considered with trafficking. And I could not agree with you more. And I hope that, one day we will have that included in our policy as well, because these people definitely needed the help. And there shouldn't be a caste system. And I do understand. And for many of you that do not understand, it's pretty much, and correct me if I were wrong, that, it's like the social economic status of the community. And you were born to it. It's not like you have a choice, right? That's my understanding. So, and that is wrong, because human are human, and regardless of what caste, what education, whether you have money, whether you are immigrant or not, we should all be treated the same. And we really hope that this global problem can be minimized with love and unity, and hope that we're all bringing to the table for everyone to prevent this from happening, but also rescue them who are still going through them, and give them the hope and the healing that they truly deserve. And I really thank you for doing the work that you do. And I know that you will be such a valuable person and bring the invaluable experience to this support group, survivors against violence everywhere, because it is everywhere. And that, anyone can be a victim.
Yeah. And, some of my driving force is the fact that some of the girls I went to school with or knew from those days that or girls they've been connected to have actually ended up committing suicide, have died here in England. And so, you know, there are lots of suicidal deaths, because, you know, when you're faced in that oppression and being tortured and treated inhumanely, there's only so much you can cope with. There's only so much you can take. I was going downhill very fast. Had my parents not rescued me in time, I would not be here today, because I would have gone in the same way those other women have gone.
Well, you know, before our recording started, Jaswinder shared something with me just now. Maybe you can share with our audience. I think I'm really proud to have you, and I think it's we're in our each other's paths for a reason, and you're here for a reason. That you know you're here alive because you have to do the work. You know, we're all doing the work for our communities, and together we can end it. And I just, you know, I'm gonna let you share the story, but I just want to tell you that we are going to have Jaswinder have like a whole hour of interview. So if you want to learn more about her, we're gonna put on the comment section below with the interview link. This way you'll be able to learn more about her. But also she's gonna speak in person in Houston, Texas at our conference Now Views as well as the International Book Awards Gala, where we celebrate our, you know, heroes like her who are the voice for the voiceless. So go ahead and share with us, you know, what you have learned.
Okay, well, I had gone to a fair where they have mediums and readers, and I had a reading done just to see what was, you know, happening for me in my life. And they said to me, "You're working very creatively. You're working hard at something very creatively." And I said, "Yes, I'm writing a book. Will it be a success?" And she said, "Oh, yes, a lot of people are going to like this book." And she said, "In fact, I see that it has overseas links to America." And I said, "Oh, really?" And at that time, I had no idea that I was going to be nominated for this award. And you know, Hope Picks, they found me themselves, because I have an Instagram, but for some reason I was guided to do one just for the oppression. And it was through the oppression one that Hope, they found me and said, "You know, we want you to nominate yourself for this book awards." And I thought, "Oh, okay." When I looked at the organization, I thought, "Wow, this is all about what I'm writing. This is like exactly what my book is all about." And you know, so I did, and then I, you know, got my friends, everybody on Facebook to nominate for me and to give me votes. Yeah, so I'm so excited. It's almost like this was, in a way, it's been predestined by spirit, by God. It's meant to be, because, you know, I didn't have a voice. I had lost my voice completely. You know, I was having a lot of problems with my neck. I still do. Sometimes I get coughs. I was having lots of problems in terms of the glands. I've worked very hard, because the neck is the throat chakra. It's your expression, your verbal expression. And when your voice is blocked, when you can't speak, the suppression, it affects the throat. And so I've been working on my, you know, throat chakra for many, many years. And I do I'm writing about this in my book, and this is why in my yoga, I teach my students in the yoga to make sounds, you know, the verbal sound, because it brings the energy up. So I do a lot of work in lots of different ways. But I have worked on my voice on my own. It's almost like I was guided by spirit. You know, each time something happens, it's like I'm guided to do something, and then I see the next step, and then I see the next step, and then the next step. So all of this really it was meant to be. We were meant to come into each other's lives and be connected. It's almost like God wanted this already before, you know, before it's even come about. So I'm so pleased. I'm so happy, you know, and let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes next, you know.
Absolutely. Well, welcome on board. Welcome. And thank you so much for the work you do. And we're going to put, all the information on the comment section below, and feel free to reach out. And Jaswinder is also going to be on the HopeX Global website as well. And stay tuned. And she's going to come and talk about more of herself and, the knowledge that she shared that's valuable, so that we can end this together and this global hidden pandemic together. Thank you so much all for tuning in, and thank you, Jaswinder.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, everybody, for listening.